Everybody. We'll just let a few more people log on, but thank you so much for joining us. Awesome. So I'm Claire Donnelly. I'm the project manager for the small business work at the Island Institute, and I'm very excited to have Shannon here today. But before I get started, before Shannon gets started, I just wanted to remind you all about all the programming that the Island Institute is doing this fall. So firstly, I hope that you guys are all planning to attend part 2 of this workshop, which is on October 14th, and that's the driving results in sales with online marketing. You have to register separately for that, so I'll send all the links to all this stuff that I'm about to talk about. And then tomorrow at 11, we have an info session with Eastern Maine Development Corporation on their new low interest, low entry loan program. And then the last workshop we're doing this fall is a business structures workshop, and that's on November 12th. We're bringing in a CPA and an attorney, and that's to talk through S Corp, LLC, sole proprietorship, to help you figure out the best business model for you and for the growth of your business. And then I wanted to remind everybody about our business resilience grant program. So this is our micro grant program through the Tom Glenn Community Impact Fund, and it's funding to help businesses pivot their business model, build more resilient systems in the wake of COVID-19. They're micro grants of up to $1,500. So for more information on that, it's at islandinstitute.org/Tom Glenn Community Impact Fund. And then the last thing that I wanted to tell you about is our small business podcast, which I'm the host of. And it's called the Commercial Occurrence Podcast. It's a show about small business on Maine's islands and coasts, where we share the power of community, creativity through the voices of small business owners and those who partner with us. And so it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify, it's everywhere where you listen to podcasts. And I will put the links to all of that I just ran through in the chat. That was a lot, I realize. So I'll hand it over to Shannon. She probably doesn't need too much of an introduction, but I'll just give her a little one. So Shannon Kinney is a seasoned startup founder and executive with over 25 years of experience. She founded Dream Local Digital in 2009 to bring the power of online marketing to small business and medium-sized businesses. She has a highly engaged network of leaders in media, technology, and startups worldwide, and has developed Dream Local Digital to be a widely recognized brand as best of class in social media fulfillment. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Shannon.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire, and thanks everyone for being here. I can see a bunch of you have logged in, which is fantastic. If you have any questions throughout today's webinar, feel free to hit me up in the chat. Both Claire and I are monitoring the chat, and she's going to take a look, and if she can answer it, she will, or she'll let me know that I need to jump in and do it, and I'm happy to do so. And thanks to several of you who gave us questions ahead of time. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in and let you know. Oh, and Claire's just put all the links to those events in the chat. So I encourage all of you to go and check that out. Great. Well, if you need any help marketing, just let me know. We have some discounts for COVID. We also have our Skills Builder Marketing Coach Program, which may be a fit. If we make it through this session and next section and you're still not sure how to tailor things for your business, let me know. But I think you're going to find that in the next 2 sessions, you're going to get a lot of great information about marketing your business overall, but also really how to create a plan of attack for the rest of this year to sort of hit holiday sales, close off 2020 in a positive way, and prepare for 2021. So in today's session, we're going to talk about developing that plan of attack, and we're really going to look at both a full plan and then also what are some of the subsets of areas that you should really be thinking about between now and, say, the end of the year, so that you can maximize your sales through now for the end of the year. We're going to talk about setting some goals for that, and I'm going to give you some ideas why they're so important. I mean, goal setting is important in any area of your life, but there are specific things around digital marketing that I want you to be thinking about, because digital marketing is so measurable that some good SMART goals will help you there. I'm going to give you some tips on the basic optimization of your presence and sort of where to prioritize your time about your online presence. Then we're going to make sure we go through a lot of your questions. Several of you were kind enough to submit some ahead of time. I've got them woven in here. And then there's going to be just a tiny bit of homework. Of course, you don't have to do the homework. You're not going to be graded on it. But if you take the time to do a little bit of that homework, it will really prepare you for next week. And in next week's section, we're going to focus on execution. So one of the questions that I got was, how do I focus my efforts? And it's really the same as sort of priority setting. Priority setting is a big part of what we're going to talk about, like between mid-October and December 31st and into 2021. How do we prioritize? How do we create really engaging content, and how would that be used? And then some tips for success, primarily on social and your website. Paid ads tend to become a big thing around the holidays. And then I'll also cover email, content marketing, and search, how it impacts search. So we're going to cover a lot of those tips in next week's session as well. And then the biggest part in winding up the pair of sessions is measuring results and how to do that. So that's what we're going to cover in the next 2 weeks, and I'm really excited that you're here. So many of you are like me, I'm sure, and have seen that due to the new economy that we live in right now, we didn't hit our targets for 2020 so far, or we're not there. And many of you also, based on the nature of your businesses and what you're selling, are really, holidays are naturally big time anyway. And so what we want to do is understand the climate that we're in, that we're really putting a lot of weight. We need to start making some money. We need to maximize this holiday season. And because of the pandemic, many of us really just need to hit a reset button on our marketing. Like, how can I think about this differently? So even though our topic today is planning, if you had a marketing plan before, it definitely needs to be reset. So this type of content that we're going to talk about today is relevant for all of you, regardless of how much goal setting you had done earlier in the year. And I also just wanted to say that before COVID-19, like, Dream Local Digital has worked with more than 50,000 small businesses in the past 11 years to help them with their online marketing. Oh, Maureen just asked if these presentations will be available. If you registered for today's event, and I have your email address, you'll get a copy of today's presentation in your email. So yes, I'm sorry, I should have said that, Maureen. Thank you for reaching out. So as I was saying, we've helped more than 50,000 small businesses over the years, and you know, many of them would classify themselves as novices in online marketing before. And this data here is also from Burrell Associates, which does a small business marketing survey multiple times a year each year. And so social media was the most used platform with small businesses in the US. 3 in 5 say they don't even know if what they're spending is the right amount. They're trying to do some of it themselves, and they classify themselves as novices, and then a crisis hits. So if you're feeling like you're not well prepared, or you're not sure what you're doing, you're in good company, right? Many small businesses are feeling this, and that's okay. So it's exciting that you're here today. We're going to try to give you some tools to do some smart planning, and next week, smart execution, and then measuring your results. So I also want to let you know that we're going to weave throughout today the questions that I received from many of you. I think a couple of them I sent you emails ahead of time because they weren't going to get covered in the sessions, but several of you have asked questions about which channels are the right channels, how to really maximize your voice and increase your sales, and focusing efforts. So I'm going to try to weave that in. I've got the list in front of me here. I'm going to try to weave it in throughout the presentation. And then at the end, I have a slide on them so that we can hit any ones that we didn't get to. All right. So step 1 in creating your marketing plan of attack is really planning and understanding your target audience. Your audience is the answer to many of the questions that I got from you today, and it's a good area for us to begin. The other thing, when you're going to work on your marketing plan of attack, this seems basic, but I can't tell you how many businesses don't do it. First step is for you to bring all aspects of marketing your business together. Signs, brochures, your listing on any chamber websites or other websites. Maybe you have a print ad or in a yellow pages or a listing on a local website. Any events, sales, contests, or promotions, particularly that you're going to have in the next 3 months, when are they and what are they? Do your sales teams or customer service teams use any information about your business to answer questions or present your solutions and showcase what you have? And for some of you, that may also include other stores that sell your products. So point of purchase displays or signage of your pieces in someone else's store might be another piece to look at. Any recruiting, for those of you who are doing recruiting, if you're listing yourself as a potential employer. And then finally, the ones we're really going to talk about the most today are your online presence. So your website, your listing on Google My Business, social media channels, any emails that you're sending out, any review sites or places you're getting reviews, e-commerce, if you're selling on your own sites or other sites like Etsy, for example, eBay, Amazon, and Google, Chamber of Commerce, and also any appointment confirmations and text marketing. In looking at the businesses that have signed up today, most of you aren't in that space. Like that's usually a hair salon, a healthcare provider, a auto body shop, for example. So those might not apply to you. But think about all of those different pieces. Make sure that they have a unified voice. I worked with a college earlier this year, and we printed out all of it. Like it was this ream of paper and hung it all over his office. And one thing he really quickly saw was that logos were different. Like people were using the logo differently in different areas. Some of the photographs being used were out of date. Some of the cover photos on social channels weren't very strong and were a little dark. And he was able to sort of look at everything together, take inventory, and create a plan on how to make it all work together. And I highly encourage you to do the same thing. And the smaller your business, the faster this endeavor should be. For that particular college, this took us almost a week to do it. But the reason it's so important is, first of all, it all needs to work together to make your marketing more effective. And people are busy, easily distracted, bombarded with information all day long. And for your marketing and all the time you're spending to really work, every time they see your brand, this all needs to work together. And so the important part is that we make sure that you see it all and you're able to inventory it, make it work together. And I want you to think broadly about content, content generally about your business. There's going to be content on your website and potentially your partner's websites, like if your product is featured on the Archipelago website for Island Institute, for example. Any place that's talked about you, your social media posts that you're creating, as well as how you've talked about your business on social, search, any content that you're creating for search, advertising, email, and offline. We really try to think about content all together. Like, what do I need? What's my story? What do I need to say about my business? And then we think about the distribution versus starting with, oh, what should my website say? And then, oh, today is Tuesday. What should my social media say? We start first with, here's our story. And then how do I tailor it for each of these different pieces? That will also, just so you know, help you show up a lot better on search engines. If you have a consistent way of describing your business across all channels, and then any reseller or partners like Archipelago are also talking about you consistently, that really helps you perform better in search. And it helps people just understand you and your business better. So thinking broadly about it and then diving into where it's seen is really helpful. Finally, when you're inventorying all of your assets and putting them in front of you, should have also added business cards, labels for your products would be other things. Get them all in front of you, take a look. Do they look like they all are in alignment? Do they have some consistent messaging, design treatment, everything looking good? And then also look at your analytics. So analytics of your website and analytics of your social channels to see, is this work I'm doing working? Like, for example, on your website, how much traffic is coming? Are you effectively getting people to come to your website from social, for example, like if you're doing posts on Facebook, are people coming from Facebook to your website? And on Facebook, are people really looking at what you're doing? And I think the key thing here is to start developing a habit of measuring your return on investment frequently. You're spending a lot of time there. Many of you are doing this yourself. Make sure that you're getting some results from your work. If there are multiple people in your team, and I see in some of these companies, you do have probably multiple people touching some of this, who owns each area, and make sure you work together. For example, in some companies, the customer service is different than the sales or marketing, and you might find that you all need to be getting your stories aligned. Make sure that you're all working together on that. If you are working with an outside provider, like somebody like Dream Local Digital or someone else, make sure that you and that team are in sync, that they understand your goals, that they have information that you want promoted, and that they can do a good job. And then finally, see if there's any place that you need work on unifying vision, logos, colors, or presence. All right. Our next exercise that I want to talk about just for a couple minutes is about finding opportunity. This environment has become challenging for many of us. It has also brought a lot of new and interesting opportunity. You know, as we were preparing for today, Claire shared with me just how important it was to many of you to generate as much revenue as you can over the holidays. And you're working on making sure your e-commerce is working. Part of the pandemic that's a benefit or an opportunity is that e-commerce sales are growing significantly. They were already high. I'm going to share some statistics with you next week that the holiday forecast and projected outlook is aggressive for online marketing and e-commerce this year. And in fact, Amazon has moved Prime Day to next week. So they're starting their holiday push on Tuesday, I think it is, of next week, and starting Prime Day. So what you can think about, this a SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this seems like one of those nerdy things consultants or people with a lot of time on their hands do. I can tell you that I'll just spend 10 minutes and scribble with a piece of paper doing this on a regular basis, because I find what happens is my business is climbing or changing, the climate is changing. Now we're shifting into fourth quarter, trying to hit our numbers, holiday sales are here. And it's about really thinking about your business differently and just setting some goals for the next 3 months. So think about, in today's climate, what are my strengths and weaknesses, and are any of them new? What are my opportunities and threats, and are any of them new? Is there any changes I need to do to my business to capture that opportunity or mitigate risk against that threat? And then pick one competitor and how do they stack up, if that's relevant. This is really an interesting opportunity for you to think strategically about your business. You know, I met yesterday with a coffee company that pre-COVID, 90% of their business was within a retail shop in Bar Harbor. And when all tourism stopped, that stopped, and they were proud, they prided themselves on serving the coffee. In the few months since the pandemic, they've shifted to almost all e-commerce. They're creating ice cream with ice cream companies. They've got white labeled versions of their coffee. Like it's a totally new business than it was even just 6 months ago. And that would never have happened if she didn't immediately stop and think, where's the opportunity here for us? And we've got to make some tough decisions and do it. So it is a challenging climate, but it also can provide new opportunity. Excuse me. So I would highly encourage you to just spend 10 minutes yourself between this week and next week and really think about, are there any new opportunities here that I need to be thinking about? What are my strengths? And when I look at all my assets here on the table, do they talk about my strengths enough? Have I mitigated my weaknesses and threats? And what steps do I need to do, if any, to successfully sell in the next 3 months and overcome any of those weaknesses or threats? So I definitely just take 10 minutes and a piece of paper and see what you're finding there. Your strengths might be your beautiful work. Weaknesses might be your profile online or your opportunities online. And so then we can fix those things to help position you better. Next thing I want to think about is your target customer. And of course, many of you will probably tell me, hey, everyone who would be interested in my product is my target customer. Like, I just need to make sales. And I get it. When you're marketing your business online, what's really interesting is the more specific your message is for your target audience, and if you're buying ads or doing anything to target specifically online, on Facebook in particular or Instagram, the more narrow the audience it is that you ask them to show your message to, the cheaper your advertising will be, right? So one of the questions I got today was about how do I handle it if my product is restricted? So I can only sell my product in Maine. So how do I restrict my promotions? For you, you know your target audience lives in Maine. Then you might want to think about, okay, based on, we're going to start with Maine, but then what? Like, what else is it about them? Is it women that buy my product? What age range are they in generally? Are they interested in, this is a food company, I believe, so are they interested in food, cooking? What is it about these people? And then when you're creating content, and for you in particular, when you're creating content on social media, we need to get your following up right now because it's a little small. You need to get more people seeing what you're doing, and you can buy an ad to get page likes, only targeting people in Maine who are women and foodies and this age and this income. So start putting some ideas together about who you think these folks are. And you can, I would use paid, $20, $30 would probably get you a long way. It doesn't have to be a lot, but get really specific with your target audience and customers. So don't worry that you can only sell in Maine. Target them with your content. And for the rest of you, the more you zero in here, I could tell you it also, you're going to hear about it next week. I'm going to show you examples that when you create content in the voice of your customer instead of generic, it really appeals to them, right? Because people are easily distracted. They're very busy. There's more content created every 60 seconds than someone can consume in a lifetime. And so when you're putting things out there, they need to really speak to your target audience. And the only way to do that well is to sort of get in the zone and get in the head of your customer. And here you're going to see that I've talked about a target customer as well as an ideal customer. Differences there are, for example, you might say my target customer are foodies and people who like to cook here in Maine. Your ideal customer might be a woman aged, say, 35 to 52 with a lot of disposable income who tells all her friends, right? And so if we know our target, we can make sure that our content, our marketing, all is really speaking to that target. If we know our ideal, that becomes our stretch goal, and we look for more of those customers and try to, even with loyalty or personal reach outs or specific marketing campaigns, try to get that target or ideal customer to do even more, if that makes sense. And I can tell you, for almost every client we work with hundreds and hundreds of businesses, someone who tells other people is part of the profile of an ideal customer. And finally, before I leave this, how do they buy from you? And what about you appeals to them? Think about this a lot. So if they used to see your work in art galleries, for example, and they happen to stumble upon your work and be moved by it and then purchase it, for example, how do we need to recreate that experience? Right? Like, we're working with the Farnsworth Museum to think about that. Like, how can we recreate the experience that people have in a live museum or gallery environment? And many of you are in that space. So how do people buy? How did they buy before? How have their habits changed? And where can I meet them? How can I meet them in the middle to make sure I'm there? And think about what appeal is appealing about you to them. and that's what you should be talking about in your marketing. So I like to spend time really drawing a picture of this person or making a list. I'll keep it in a Post-it note on my monitor so I make sure that what I'm writing appeals to those people. And you'll find as you start looking at other companies that are marketing to you, that you'll be surprised and delighted when somebody really speaks to you. And I'm going to show you an example next week of an email that I got from Fitbit, that they just nailed it, right? Like they just nailed meeting me where I was in a way that made me read the email and go, wow, that's great, instead of just hitting delete, which is what a lot of people do when they get email. So really get in the head of your target market and customer. And just so you know, when you think about your homework between now and next week, I would highly encourage you to, at minimum, spend some time here. If you can, do a quick little strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats notes. Make some notes for yourself on there too. But target customer, if you do nothing else today, this is the big one. Finally, think hard about how their habits and perspectives have changed. For example, before COVID, I was on the road 2 to 3 days and nights, 26 to 28 weeks a year. And so a lot of my habits around shopping were convenience-based, low time involvement based, and now I have more time. And so I do things very differently. And the key thing to know is to develop a habit, it takes about 6 weeks. And many people were in shelter in place for more than 6 weeks. And then we've had a beautiful summer here in Maine, and people have been outside a little bit more, starting to do some interactions a little bit more. But even how they're interacting with each other, it's different. So no matter what worked for you in the past, really spend some time getting in the head of your customer and thinking about how their habits and perspectives have changed to make sure that, first of all, that they can buy from you in a way that works for them, but also that the way you are working with them has evolved. Make sure that you're accommodating for that, if that makes sense. And then finally, we're going to really dive into this planning part, which is the whole thrust of our webinar today, and why a plan is so important. And I have marketing plans for clients that are like 70 pages long. I also have 1-page plan of attacks for some clients, which is like, okay, 4th quarter, here's our target audience and customer, here's our goals, we're going to hit the road in these ways, let's go. So a plan is really about setting goals and making sure that whomever else is involved understands those goals, that you're spending your time in the right places to hit the goal and hit the audience. One of the questions I got today is Instagram better than Facebook to drive traffic to a site? That was a great question. And what I can tell you is the answer to that question is, who is your customer and which one are they on more? So, you know, which is why in the plan, we're really like the right channels, where do we go? And to answer that question specifically for the person who asked me, what I can tell you is, let me talk to you really quickly about, I'm trying to see which, we've got an artist, Heidi. So Heidi, to answer that question, think about who's first of all, who's moved to buy the art, and then who pays for the art. Instagram is a really important platform for artists and visual art in particular. And many of you on this call are visual artists or craftspeople, makers of some type, museums. Instagram is really important to inspire people. Like, I think about Instagram as the walls of your gallery, as an opportunity to showcase a piece and tell the story behind it, what motivated you, what inspired you to create that particular piece. Instagram is upwardly mobile, people who are upwardly mobile in their careers. The age range here is 35 and under. So while it's important for all artists to be there, your real question was driving traffic to a site, and I assume and to get them to buy something. It depends on the income and the age of your customer. Instagram, you have to be there, but if your target customer who's actually buying the art is over 35, they're in their 40s, 50s, and up, Facebook might be better to drive traffic to your website. So I hope that addresses your question. Your plan of attack, after you've set your goals, the right channels, you're right there. You're trying to figure out the right channels, and that's an important part of what you should be doing. And we'll talk about it a little bit more next week, but it's about knowing where your customer base is. Facebook also, frankly, has better opportunities for linking and shopping, although Instagram's getting there. Final thing I'll answer on that particular question is the paid advertising platform of both of those is the same. So you can even create one ad and have it go to both. If you allow the system to make the decision of which one, it will send your ad to whoever's the most likely to buy, regardless of what channel they're on. So as a visual artist, Heidi, you should be on both. Looks like we got another question, so let me hear that. Janet just asked, what do you think about tagging products on Facebook? And I would say that is a great question, Janet, and I would tag products live on Facebook or at any time. Tagging exposes your message beyond your own page, your own audience. So whether you're tagging a location, whether you're tagging, a partner, maybe somebody who's selling your products in their store. Hey, big shout out to Archipelago. We love having our products featured there, that kind of thing. So whether you're tagging your product, a reseller, a partner, a customer, anything, it works very well, Janet. Thanks for asking that question. A good example of tagging, and sorry, I'm not live online right now, but a great example of tagging that I saw this morning when I was looking at many of your sites was actually on the La Nef chocolate page. Dylan, I think, is with us today. Hey, Dylan. When I was looking at their Facebook page, I was really impressed with, there was a post at the Monhegan Museum where they showcased a beautiful painting, then their chocolate that has a label of that painting in perfect juxtaposition and tag the museum in it. So that's a perfect example of how to showcase the product, tag another organization, and make your message seen by more people. So I hope that answered your question, Janet. And definitely go check out La Nef Chocolate, which I hope I'm saying right, on Facebook to see that example. So in your plan, we're really looking for a good mix of types of content, calls to action. So by that, I mean, you don't want to just say, here's my pretty painting, here's my pretty painting, here's my pretty painting. You want to say, buy here, learn more about the artist here, subscribe to my email list here. What is it you're trying to make people do? So the question I'd ask you is, who are you trying to reach? What is it you want them to do? That's your call to action. So make sure your plan has your goals, you know your goals, you know your audience, then the right channels, where is my customer, the right message at the right time, and how do I pull them through the buyer's journey? Look at my art, see my beautiful work, buy something, and really ask them to do what it is you want them to do, the calls to action. So I know this is a tiny bit choppy, but I want to make sure I'm weaving in answers to your questions. So I'm going to stop for a second and answer another question that I saw here, which is, how does one market arts, craft, or workshops without overdoing it, seeming like you're tooting your own horn or being obnoxious? I love this question because a lot of people are really thinking, isn't this self-serving, or don't I seem a little bit too much if I'm posting every day, like buy now, buy now, buy now. So your question is a really good one. And the reason I'm raising the answer of this one here, and then we are going to cover this one in much more detail next week, is in your planning, you should really be looking for a mix of types of content. So what I would be doing is, like, we work on a 30 to 45 day content plan for every client we have. And we try to say, okay, how am I going to get the right mix of selling what I have to sell, showcasing some work or my team or the store or the gallery or whatever, telling our story and sort of behind the scenes. How do I create a mix? Because that's what helps you feel a little bit less like you're tooting your own horn and a little bit more like you're actually just really talking about the business. And I can tell you for the past month or so, we've been so busy on client work, I've noticed that the mix on my social channel has gotten a little flat. Like, this is really something that you constantly have to be looking at. Like, you have to be thinking about, how can I be a resource to my community? How can I sell what I do? How can I tell our story? So really, to answer your question, you need a plan. First of all, you shouldn't just wake up in the morning and post on social, because that's when it tends to be repetitive. You should come up with a plan that has a really nice mix. And it's okay to toot your own horn. If you're going to do a post that toots your own horn, maybe your next post should be about being a resource to someone. You know, 5 things to consider when purchasing art. The size of the room, the scale, the light, the glass. I'm making it up because I'm not a gallery owner, but that should give you some sense of it. And also workshops, like if you're offering workshops, much like the Island Institute is, you'll notice that there's a mix of it. Here's my workshop, sign up, but then here's something else we're doing, and here's some interesting behind the scenes. Like, make sure you have that good mix, and that should help you with that particular question, and more on it with examples next week. So make sure you get your plan, you pull it all together, and that it coordinates with offline marketing as well. So your signage, your work in your store, your gallery, your museum. Okay. Then here, I wanted to show you an example of how you might use a plan. So first column is business objective, right? Like, this is the goal of the business. Second is, how do I take that goal and then translate it to what I'm going to do on social media? And then third, how do I measure my results to make sure I'm actually doing, getting results towards my goal? So if your goal is to grow your brand and have more people know about you, then what you're trying to do on social media is build awareness, and the metrics that matter the most there are followers, shares, likes, comments, that kind of thing. If you're trying to drive leads and sales, then you really want to optimize more of your content for conversions. And if you're buying ads, they have special ad units for that. If you're writing content, it's about asking the person to do what you want them to do. Sign up for my email list, or register here, shop now. Whatever it is, think about your business goal. Here's ways to apply it to social, and then measure it. So I thought that was a little cheat sheet for those of you, because a lot of the questions I got were about social media. All right. So after I did a webinar similar to this for the Small Business Development Center, and the biggest question that I got, a ton of people emailed me afterwards and asked me, what is the outline of the plan, right? You've talked about how important the plan is. You say how critical it is. What's in the plan? And I'm not going to, because most of what your questions are around are really making money between now and the end of the holidays. Like, it's a short-term strategy. So the most important ones for you to be thinking about between now and getting ready to sell a lot in the next couple of months are ones that I've highlighted in yellow. Like, these are the ones where we've got to nail this down, make sure that your social, your e-commerce, everything's ready to rock, and that you can sell your products online and in your stores and galleries. But if you wanted to create, for example, maybe for 2021, a complete marketing plan, what should be in it, these are elements that I would be thinking about. And, you're going to have a great session in November about how to structure your business. Super important advice that I wish somebody had given me earlier on, because we've had to change our structure 3 times, I think, over 12 years. So attend the November 12th session. Another thing that you might want to be thinking about at that time is your business plan and your marketing plan to hit your goals. This is what that outline should look like. And here are and we've got a lot more detail about this in our coaching program. If you needed more, let me know. But for the next couple of weeks, I want you thinking about your customer, your unique selling proposition, and your brand promise. Like, what makes you different, and what promise do you make to your customers? Like, how should we be talking about you? Promotion and distribution is what channels, what am I doing on my website? What am I doing on social media? What am I doing in my store, gallery, or in person? What am I doing on email? Like, how does all of this work together? And then measuring results and priority setting. We're going to talk about the promotion and distribution and measuring results next week. All right. That was a lot of information, I know. The second step I want to take you through when you're really coming up with your plan of attack is taking a quick look at your online presence and making sure that it sends the message that you want it to send, and that it showcases you and what you do. So you want to take a few minutes and optimize your online presence. Now, when I say optimize, there are some changes that you might be able to make in the short term. There are others that maybe are going to take more work and need to wait, but they should be on your goals list. So when it comes to your website, obviously many of you, given the timing, need to see, does it have e-commerce? Can I effectively transact or get people's information so that I could call them even or email them to conduct a transaction? That doesn't apply to all of you on this list, but it does apply to some of you. So e-commerce is a big one. The second thing I really want you thinking about, and we'll talk about this a little bit more next week, is your website mobile friendly? The majority of searches done on search engines are done on a mobile device, and Google will not return you as an answer to the results if your site isn't mobile friendly. So even if you're looking at your website on your great big monitor in your office and it looks beautiful and you search for yourself and you show up, you might not on mobile. And so make sure your website's mobile friendly. If you can't do it this year, make a plan for next year to upgrade your site to make sure that it is. Can it grow with you? If you need an audit and you want to know, does my website show up on search engines? Is there anything wrong with my website that would make it so it doesn't show up on search engines? Is it mobile friendly or not? Like, if you have any questions about that, I can do a free audit for you. My email will be at the end of the session today. You could just email me and say, I'd love a site audit, and I'll run a report for you through our tool and give you some ideas on what you could or should be doing. On your social, strong branding on your channels, links to your website, contact information, and hours. Top search thing on Google, there are 5 top search things on Google about a small business, and you're going to know a lot of them. Name, address, phone number, those are all important. 4th highest search thing, hours of operation, right? So make sure on your social channels and on your Google My Business, which is your own profile on the biggest search engine in the world, your hours are updated. Because particularly in COVID, that search term has gone up a lot, and you want to make sure your address is optimized, because a lot of people search for art gallery near me, right? Near me has become a really big search because more and more people are using their phone knows where they are. So make sure that your social and Google My Business have really good branding, updated photos. And for those of you that are artists, which so many of you are, even if you're not a graphic designer, have a graphic designer help you design your cover photos and your branding on your social channels. Like a photo of sort of the front of your gallery that may or may not fit or might not have great lighting. Like, you're a visual artist and you should showcase yourself better. So make sure that you're really thinking about that. Do a quick trade with somebody who's in graphic design. Call my team. We can set those things up and get you good branding for $125 or so. So it's not a lot, but find somebody who can help you really make strong branding on those. Search engine optimization. Can you be found? Please don't Google yourself under your own name. Google yourself under what you do. You know, food products, art, anything that you're selling. Look for it and see if you show up in your geography at minimum. If you don't, that might be a signal that either there's some work to be done on your website, or a lot of what fixes that is writing content on your website that answers whatever that question was. So we could talk more about that in detail next week, but do a little searching this week to see, hey, am I doing okay? Email, make sure it's easy to use, has images in it, is short and sweet copy, not long rambling copy, and mobile friendly. And then do they all work together to tell your story? Because when we go into next week, we're going to be more in the weeds of here's what you should do on your website to sell more for Christmas. Here's what you should do on social. But if your presence isn't optimized to begin with, it'll automatically weigh you down. And so take a look this week to see how you're doing. I wanted to showcase a couple examples of some of you who are with us that have a really nice looking presence. This is Maine Crafts Association. I really love your presence on Instagram. In particular, how you've not only do you have some great posts, they're regular posts, but you've created these nice subgroups of different types of posts that make it really easy for people to just go right in. If you're a member, you just want member news, you can go straight to that. They've also leveraged a tool called Linktree, which if you click this link here, it will give you links to all their website, all the different social channels and how you can find them really quickly. So that's a great way to use the one link you get on Instagram well. So nice job. That's a really nice Instagram channel. Here is Maine Aquaculture Association's Facebook page. I really love the content that you're putting together here, and you can't see it here in my image, but I'd highly encourage you to check it out on Facebook. They have a wonderful video as their cover photo. It's compelling, and even with sound off, you really get a flavor for what they stand for and what they're doing. And so this is another example of a really optimized profile. Hold on, we got a couple questions. Oh, Afton saying thank you. You're so welcome. I really enjoyed taking a chance to look at what you were doing. And then, okay, and then we've answered the other question. So that's great. So I'd highly encourage you to check out their page. Really terrific. You're also, a sneak peek, you're going to see this post right here next week too, and I'll share with you why that particular post that happened today is so special. Another great one to check out, Archipelago, and I want you all to see the Shop Now button, right? So they've done a good job. They've got their COVID-19 update posted, which lets everybody know right away that they're open, that they're safe, that they're taking precautions, which really does matter to people now. And Shop Now, top, front, and center. Not hard to set that up. It goes straight to their product section of their website. So that's a great way to optimize your social channel. All right. So I'm going to talk step 3 before we close today, because I know this has been a ton of info. Being found matters a lot. So you've optimized your presence. You've got them looking good. You're ready. Then we need to make sure you can be found. And this is distribution. What channel? Where am I posting what where? And we're going to look more at this next week, but just some basics here that I wanted to share, because we did get some a lot of questions about this around like which channel should I be on. There's 2 things on social media. First one, if you can't keep up with it, you shouldn't be there. So like if you're not good at using Twitter, you don't understand Twitter, or you don't go there very often, it's probably not the right channel for you. And also, where is your audience? Smartest thing, where is your audience? And if your audience is 35 and under and highly motivated about visually, then I would definitely be on Instagram, for example. So that's really the key thing. I did get one question about websites I want to hit really quick. Best platform to sell your work, Squarespace or WordPress? So for this is, what I'm gathering this question is, and if I'm misunderstanding it, hit me up next week and I'll make sure I hit it again. But I really gathered, which platform should my website be on, especially if I want to sell things? I will tell you, no matter what, the answer to that question is WordPress, not Squarespace. Squarespace might be easy for you to build on your own, but they're very hard to find on search engines. And for a lot of businesses, we end up having to get hired to rebuild and undo Squarespace. So I would highly encourage you to test WordPress. The other thing that's great about WordPress is it can grow with you. You can integrate a Shopify shopping cart, which you didn't ask about, but is a great shopping cart that's really easy to use. There are several shopping carts on WordPress that are great, and Shopify is a terrific one. So that might be part of your distribution that you're thinking about. On your website, whatever the words are that you want to show up on a search engine, like if somebody you want to be what they find as the answer, make sure those words are on your website, and that will help you show up better in search. Email is a highly effective tool, but it has to be done right. And we're going to talk about that next week, how to not spam people, how to target your email list. We did get a question about how to build my email list. How do I get people to subscribe to my email list? And a lot of that has to do with creating a campaign to talk about what someone will get if they subscribe and having it there, or getting them there during the shopping experience. I'm going to talk more about that next week. It was a great question, and we are going to get it next week. Direct messaging may work really well. Like, you might be able to answer quick questions. For example, you might not know that you can have your Facebook page messenger on that page automatically answer a couple questions for people, like your hours of operation, directions, where to click to make a reservation. Those could work. So find what's going to work for you and master it. And we could talk a lot more about that next week, but I can tell you right now, the answer to your question for me is almost always going to be, who's the target audience again? What is it they're trying to do? And that is going to make a big difference. Patricia just asked why Squarespace is disadvantaged in searches. Squarespace, Wix, Squarespace, some of these ones that they make it so easy for you to build it on your own, because they've invested a ton of money and done an awesome job building a tool that makes it easy for you to create a website. But it's a closed environment tool. There's a lot of code that is simplified, so simplified for you, that makes it incredibly challenging for the sites to be listed, the sites to be found, or indexed by search engines. It's a bummer. Sometimes what we'll do for clients that have a Squarespace site, they love it, they don't want to rebuild it, is we might add on a WordPress blog to the website. Make it seamless to the consumer. They don't even realize that link 1 goes to one place and link 2 goes to another, because they're all seamlessly linked together. But it allows us to get a big section of that site that can be crawled better on search engines. So not everybody has to throw away a Squarespace site, but I certainly would be highly considering getting off the platform going into 2021 if you wanted. I hope that helps, Patricia. It's a fairly technical answer, but just think about those little bots with the search engine just can't find what they need very well on Squarespace. Awesome. All right, so we're going to jump back in. As I mentioned, search engine optimization is really fueled by what content you're writing. And you know, I will have people make a list for me of all the things you want to show up under search engines. And then I go to the website, I go to social media, my content plan, what I'm going to write about, and I make sure that I'm writing about those things, because that's how it works. It's really simple. You're feeding the beast the answers to the questions, and then they will highlight you in front of the customer. On social, as I said, you want to understand the platform and how it works to master it, because they're all a little bit different. And how you make the algorithms work for you. Like, if you're wondering, like, lots of people used to see my posts on Facebook and now they don't, like, how is it working? The key thing here is getting reactions, positive reactions. Likes, comments, shares is what's really gonna make your stuff show up in more searches. In Pinterest, it's pins, shares, repins. That's how it works. And the holy grail of engagement in Facebook is like the biggest thing that you can get the strongest signal of relevancy is people talking to each other in the comments. And so sometimes you may even, as a business owner, encourage some conversation and get people talking to each other so that you can get some things going on. In this case, here's an example where we wrote, "Show us your selfies from a past lobster festival." And all of a sudden, people in the comments start posting all these pictures, people start talking to each other. And that's how that one, we got 3,600 people reached in the first day, 284 engagements. So conversation works really well. In Instagram, it's a tag in the comments. So if I'm tagging one of my friends, like, you got to see this picture. That's the holy grail there. And really, Facebook, which I'm sure you know, owns Instagram. Their goal is to have positive user engagement. The more of that they're seeing, the more effective they make your advertising. And so I mean it when I say it. Let me say it one more time. The more that your content is targeted toward an audience that finds it really appealing, the more cheaper, efficient, higher ROI your advertising will be. The reason why is Facebook doesn't want you seeing a bunch of ads that aren't relevant to you, because then you'll spend less time on the platform. They want us all to be there. They want us all to be happy. And they want your ad to only go to people who care about it. So get a lot of engagement. That tells Facebook people care, and then it's a much more efficient process. And we're going to talk about it a lot next week. And some of you have questions, which we'll go into more detail. But e-commerce, are you ready? And if you're not ready, spend some time this week thinking about how to get there, make it part of your plan and part of your goals. If there's anything that I can do to help, or you have questions in the meantime, let me know. But ultimately, you know, there's this famous saying about how do you eat an elephant, you know, one bite at a time, right? Just you can do this. And next week, we're going to look at some of the smartest, you know, if you only do 3 or 4 things, what would they be on your website? What would they be on search? What would they be on social, with a lot of examples? Because many of the questions that we've been getting are about show me how to do it on social. Next week will help you also set some priorities of what to do. So I put the questions in here too, so you guys could all see them. There's a few of them I didn't get to answer yet. The key thing, we have like one more minute, so I'll just answer one more before we stop, which was, how can I address COVID in my plan? How is marketing changing? And the key thing I want to share with you is, it's back to what we talked about earlier, which is the target audience. Really spend a few minutes thinking about them. And even if anybody in Maine could buy your product, who are the people that traditionally do? What do they like? How have their habits changed? If you have good relationships with some of your customers, ask them if you don't know. How marketing has changed overall in the past couple of years is people are really easily distracted, and they respond to things that are more tailored to them and less generic. How it's changed since COVID is your customers' habits have changed, and you need to acknowledge that. Like, you can't assume that they're buying, thinking, spending the same way that they did before. So I think that's the biggest way to address COVID in your plan. And we'll go over the rest of the questions that we got. These are a few more of them in next week's session. I'll make sure that we hit all of them. So in closing, because before I open it up, and I'm happy to sit here and answer other questions that you guys might have, this is a little bit of homework for you guys to be thinking about. What would your SMART goals look like for the rest of 2020? And I've got a worksheet in a second to go over what a SMART goal is, so don't stress. But I'm going to ask that you set a couple of SMART goals for the rest of 2020. And it could be something simple: this amount of sales, sell this many pieces, build my email list by 100 people. Whatever it is, set a couple goals. Review your assets. Did anything surprise you? Are you good there? Anything that you need to think about that needs to be taken care of either now or in 2021? What would your simplified plan of attack look like between now and year end? I need to add or improve e-commerce, or add 3 products to my website, do a social media campaign to promote those products, look at my content and try to get a better mix. That's a good example of a simplified plan of attack. What area are you going to promote the most? And if so, where do you need help? And feel free to ping me if there's any questions that you have on that. Now, a SMART goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So I have one on one particular initiative I'm working on that I need to expose some new tools we have to 50 customers between now and December 31st. And so I can measure it. It's achievable. It's relevant because it's related to one side of my business I'm trying to move. And I know exactly 50. I got 2 of them today. Now I know it's 48. And the more what you measure will move. And so make sure that you just keep simple. And maybe it's only one goal that you have for now till the end of the year. But set one and have it in your mind. when you're thinking about next week's webinar, mostly because it'll help you focus what you're trying to do and what content that you're going to hear about that's actionable. And just to leave you with a couple notes for inspiration, here's a few questions to ask yourself to sort of inspire yourself on what those goals may be for you. So you'll get a copy of today's presentation either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. If you need coaching or any help long-term, let me know. And here's our team. So we're here for any questions that you have, if you have any before, although I see it's 3 o'clock and we've used our time up.
Thank you so much, Shannon. If anybody has any lingering questions. And then I hope you all have registered for next week. And then when you exit this webinar, there will be a link in your browser to a survey, and we would just really appreciate you guys. It's just a few questions, but your feedback is really valuable on how we can make this better and what ongoing support we can provide. So that's all I got.
Bye,
Thank
Kim.
you so much, Shannon.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.